Ever had a job that haunted you? Surviving 3 a.m. shifts in a bone-chilling nightmare. The clock struck 3. The witching hour. A time when shadows grow teeth and the mind plays tricks, turning mundane sounds into eerie whispers. Sarah sat alone in the dimly lit break room of Ashley's Corner Mart, nerves raw, jumpy. Cold air nipped at her skin, leaving goosebumps dancing down her arms. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded beast, rattling the old glass. It was the kind of night where reality blurred with nightmare, and every tick of the clock felt like a countdown to madness. Something wasn't right. She could feel it deep in her gut. At first, it was just the sound of the fridge, a low hum, a soft buzzing that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Then, it escalated. Odd clattering echoed from the aisles, mocking her solitude. She dared to peer around the corner, half expecting to find a wild raccoon rummaging through the snacks, but there was nothing, just silence. That kind of emptiness that fills the air with dread, making every creak of the floor sound like a footstep behind her. The customers were usually few at this hour, a late-night stop for coffee or chips, the stragglers wandering in like lost souls. Yet tonight, the store felt too quiet, too heavy. A shiver crept up her spine as she remembered the stories, the urban legends that snaked through the night shifts. They said the store was built on cursed land, the restless spirits of the past still lingering, unwilling to move on. Sarah laughed it off. At first it was just a joke. But her laughter died when she heard the whispers again, low and melodic, curling around her like smoke. Was it just the wind? But it didn't stop. A cold draft swept through the room, and a flicker of lights overhead made her jump. There it was again. This time, a voice. "Help me!" The plea cut through her, wrapping around her throat like a vice. Heart pounding, she clutched the edge of her chair. Who was calling? Was she losing her mind? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The lights flickered again, but this time, they stayed dim, barely illuminating the exit sign, which glowed like a sinister eye. The weight of dread pressed in on her chest. Was she really alone? The thought sent chills racing down her back. She glanced toward the aisles once more, straining to listen. Through the clutter of her fear, there it was, footsteps. Slow and deliberate, like a heartbeat echoing in the dark. She gripped her phone, the faint glow providing a tiny comfort, but she felt foolish in her fear. It's just a child, she whispered to herself, trying to convince her racing heart. But as she stood up, an inexplicable urge pulled her toward the sound. What if someone needed help? What if it was all just her imagination? Whatever it was, she couldn't shake the icy grip of terror. In that moment, she knew she had to confront what lurked in the shadows. But as she stepped closer to the sound, a sense of panic gripped her, the feeling that whatever lay ahead was more than just a trick of the mind. Sarah hesitated, caught between curiosity and fear, the unknown beckoning her forward, but at what cost? What could she possibly discover in the dark corners of the store? The whispers chanted her name, urging her to come closer. As she took a breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead, the stories she had brushed off flooded back, a warning, a danger. Suddenly, the lights went out completely, plunging her into darkness. A scream died in her throat as the world around her shifted, and she had to decide: face whatever was lurking or turn back in terror. What would she choose? The darkness enveloped Sarah, thick and suffocating. Her heart raced, pounding fiercely in her chest as she fumbled for her phone. The screen flickered to life, casting a shaky beam of light that barely pierced the shadows. Anxiety swirled in her gut, twisting like a knife. She could hear her own breath, loud, frantic, echoing in her ears. But what else lurked out there, just beyond her narrow circle of illumination? Hello. She dared to call out. The sound bounced off the walls, mixing with the heavy silence, but there was no answer. Just the relentless rustle of her own fears and the distant creak of shelves swaying ever so slightly. She swallowed hard, her throat dry. Each step echoed, reverberating around her like the tolling of a bell marking her approach toward an unseen fate. The aisles loomed, warped and menacing in the murky glow of her phone. Shadows danced like phantoms, flickering in and out of sight as she moved closer to the source of the footsteps. "Stay calm, Sarah. It's just a trick of the light," she whispered to herself, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. But deep down, she knew this wasn't just her imagination playing tricks. Something was there. Something had been waiting. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of movement. Something darted just out of sight right at the end of the snack aisle. Her breath hitched. "Is anyone there?" She called again, louder now, a false bravado spilling out amid her unease. Nothing. Only the creeping shadows remained, and that chilling whisper snaked its way back, more insistent than before. "Help me." The sound coiled around her like a serpent, tightening her grip on the phone. Was it a plea for help, or something more sinister like an invitation to step deeper into the dark? A sickening dread filled her, clawing at her insides. Goosebumps erupted on her skin as she froze, staring into the abyss before her. Just then, a sudden crash echoed from the other end of the store, reverberating through her bones. She flinched, the sound sending a bolt of fear racing through her veins. It was a shattering noise, something heavy falling, or maybe a container spilling its contents across the floor. Instinctively, she stepped back, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. With a deep breath, she summoned her trembling legs to move forward, drawn inexplicably toward the chaos. Each cautious step felt monumental as she navigated through the darkness, her phone trembling in her grasp. As she neared the sound, the cold air wrapped tighter around her, every breath a struggle. She rounded the corner, prepared to confront whatever horror lay in wait, and stopped dead in her tracks. "Help me," echoed again, louder and more desperate. Her heart pounded as the source of the voice became clear. Shelves had toppled, and there, half visible among the debris, a figure huddled. It was a man, his eyes wide with terror. But as Sarah's heart raced with alarm, she realized he wasn't looking at her. No, he was staring past her, a look of unfathomable dread etched across his face. "Run!" he shrieked, his voice a raw, desperate plea. "Get out of here!" In that moment, all thought of bravery evaporated, and her instincts screamed at her to flee. But as she turned to escape, the lights burst back on. Blinding brightness flooded the aisles, revealing not just the man, but shadows creeping along the walls, dark shapes moving in the periphery, lurking under the fluorescent glare. She felt a visceral jolt of panic. What had she stumbled into? The lurking danger had been waiting, and now it was coming for her. Adrenaline surged as she whipped around, her breath quickening, but just as she was about to run, she locked eyes with the man. And in that haunting moment, he whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." Now cornered between the unknown peril behind her and the specter of ill fate ahead, Sarah's mind raced. What would she do next? Would she succumb to the whispers or fight against the encroaching shadows? As dread clutched her throat, she understood, the real nightmare was just beginning. Sarah's breath quickened as she stood frozen, caught in the gaze of the terrified man. The flickering lights painted ominous shadows across his face, revealing a sheen of sweat clinging to his brow. The atmosphere thickened around her, heavy with unspoken dread. Had she really stumbled into a waking nightmare? In a frantic moment of clarity, Sarah's instinct kicked in. She turned her back on the man and sprinted down the aisle, each footfall echoing loudly as if announcing her frailty to the dark entities at play. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a stark glow that felt both protective and suffocating. As she dashed past rows of snacks and household items that loomed like silent witnesses, she could hear noises escalating behind her, the scraping of shoes, a low growl, the whisper of something dark creeping closer. "Help me!" She screamed, the urgency of her voice reverberating against the walls, but deep down, she sensed that nobody could hear her. The man's warning echoed in her mind, "You shouldn't have come here." It hung like a weight around her neck, pulling her deeper into fear. She glanced over her shoulder. The shadows moved faster now, shifting like smoke. Panic surged. One moment she was running, in the next, she was faced with a wall of towering shelves. They blocked her path, a fortress of items lined up in neat rows, but it felt more like a prison now. Think. She chanted as she spun around, searching for a way out. The aisle stretched endlessly, the light flickering ominously as if teasing her desperation. She needed to get outside, she had to escape whatever had claimed this place. Then she heard it again. That chilling, dreadful whisper. "Help me." It seeped into her consciousness, drawing her back with an almost magnetic pull. "No!" she cried, gripping her phone tightly as she renewed her frantic search for an exit. Was it the voice of the huddled man or something darker? The idea sent a jolt through her, combining fear with defiance. Suddenly, a bat of motion caught her eye. It darted between the shelves, black and quick. Sarah's heart pounded as she tried to make sense of it. Was it animal? Or something even more sinister? That uncertainty made her skin crawl, and she felt the wild need to flee pulse through her. In that chaos, she stumbled upon what looked like a fire exit sign, green and glowing. Hope surged through her, igniting her resolve. She raced toward it, the whispers growing louder, angrier almost. It was as if they were warning her against breaking free. Reaching the door, she yanked it open, gasping at the sudden rush of cool air that filled her lungs. But outside was not the sanctuary she had hoped for. Instead of a parking lot, it opened into a darkened hallway, concrete and unforgiving, leading away from the store into shadowy uncertainty. Fear clawed at her throat as she hesitated. Where was she now? "Come back." The voice was clearer now, not just a whisper, but a command that slithered around her. The door behind her slammed shut, a finality to it that sent her reeling. Panic surged again. She was trapped. She took a step back, her heart hammering in her chest, but the darkness loomed closer, beckoning her back into its abyss. Sarah, it was him, the man calling for her, his voice echoing in that dim hallway. Her decision now loomed before her, to confront her fears, to dive into that skin-crawling darkness, or to face the unknown beyond the door. Little did she know, the real terror was just up ahead, waiting for a moment of weakness. With a single breath, she pushed forward, readying herself for the shadows creeping ever closer. The question was, would she find light, or was she walking further into the darkness? The hallway swallowed her whole, an endless corridor lined with grimy walls that seemed to close in around her. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting erratic shadows that danced with every heartbeat. Sarah moved cautiously, each step heavy with dread, her pulse thumping against her ribcage like a war drum. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, waiting. Sarah, the voice was a haunting echo, lingering in the air like a ghostly echo. It was low and insistent, drawing her further into the darkness. She hesitated, but then took a deep breath, pushing through the choking fear. The dim light behind her vanished as the door slammed shut, sealing off her only escape. "Where are you?" she yelled into the gloom, her words swallowed by the vast silence. The hallway felt like a grave, oppressive and suffocating. She pressed on, driven by instinct more than reason. The walls seemed to thrum with an unseen energy, vibrating beneath her fingers as she brushed against them. Was it her imagination, or did they pulse in time with her heartbeat? Suddenly, a low growl reverberated through the air, sending chills racing down her spine. It was followed by a sickening silence, stretching the tension like a taut wire. She froze, the sinister sounds fading into an ominous hum, only to be replaced by a new noise, a scratching, like nails against the concrete floor, unrelenting and closer than before. "Come to me." The voice morphed into a sickly sweet melody, echoing off the walls. For a moment, the fear receded, replaced by a strange urge to obey. She shook her head sharply, the realization stinging like cold water. "No. I want tea." She cried out, spinning on her heel and sprinting down the corridor, her shoes squeaking against the hard surface. A door on her left caught her eye, slightly ajar, a glimmer of dull light spilling from within. Her breath caught in her throat as she skidded to a halt. Should she risk it? Was it safe? The scratching grew louder, almost frantic, like something trapped against the door, desperate to escape. Without thinking, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was small, cluttered with debris, broken furniture, scattered boxes, and a flickering light overhead. Papers fluttered, as if caught in an unseen draft. As she moved deeper, the door slammed shut behind her. Sarah jumped, heart racing. No turning back now. She turned to find an old mirror hanging crookedly on the wall, the glass cracked but still reflecting the dim light. She stepped closer, dread bubbling in her stomach. Her reflection stared back, but there was something off. The eyes weren't hers. They shimmered with a dark intensity that nearly sent her reeling. Sarah, a whisper snaked from her reflection, sending waves of nausea through her. "Help me, please stop it." She screamed, staggering back, grappling for clarity. A part of her wanted to lean in and understand more, while another screamed to flee. She was inches away from the truth or absolute horror. Suddenly, the scratching turned into a wild banging, the walls trembling as if they were alive, trying to break free. Sweat dripped down her temples, and panic flared once more. As she veered, her foot caught on a loose cable, sending her crashing to the ground. A dark shape loomed in the corner, growing larger and more defined. It twisted into an ethereal figure, its eyes glowing like fiery coals. Sarah's breath hitched, a primal fear clawing at her throat as her instincts screamed that she needed to get out. "Join me," the words slithered out, wrapping around her heart like a vice. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she scrambled to her feet, her pulse pounding in her ears like a war drum. This was at the very brink of her reckoning. She dashed toward the door, adrenaline coursing through her. But would it hold, or would she be swallowed by the darkness forever? As she reached for the handle, she felt something pulse, a shadow behind her reaching out. With horror flooding her veins, she turned, realizing that the only way out might just lead her deeper into the abyss of the nightmare that surrounded her. Would she escape, or would she be claimed by the shadows? The climax was nearing. The door held firm, denying her passage. Panic surged through her as she battered it with her fists. "Let me out! Let me out!" But the walls only echoed her cries, low and mocking, like a sinister chorus taking pleasure in her torment. Behind her, the dark figure stirred. It stretched and twisted, fingers elongating into grotesque claws that scratched against the wall, tearing at the plaster as if trying to dig its way closer. Each scrape sent a bone-chilling shudder through Sarah's entire being. She turned and ran, not caring about the clutter anymore. With each frantic step, she felt the air thicken, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The flickering light overhead buzzed erratically, casting flares of illumination that illuminated shadows, twisting them into horrific shapes. Her heart hammered louder, thudding against her chest like a wild animal desperate to escape its cage. "Join me," that voice wrapped around her again, smooth, sickening. It no longer demanded, it pleaded in a way that made her skin crawl. What kind of entity was this? She had to focus. Think, Sarah. What was in this room? Her gaze darted across the mess. Books lay on the floor, their spines cracked. She grabbed one, flipping through pages filled with dark illustrations. Symbols that seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as her racing heart. It was a journal, a hunter's log, it seemed, recounting nights much like this one. The last entry caught her eye, inked in frantic scribbles. "Whatever you do, do not look for the mirror's secret. It holds only despair. The darkness is stronger than any light you can hold. We are shadows in the end." A cold sweat coated her palms. Shadows. She glanced over her shoulder, the figure was nearer now, its eyes glimmering with malevolence. With a deep breath, she cast the journal aside and searched the room for another way out. A window? A back door? Instead, her hands fumbled over remnants of furniture, the uneven surfaces biting into her fingertips. Out of the corner of her eye, she glimpsed something beyond the mirror again. The reflection was not Sarah. It was a different girl, pale, sunken eyes, hair wild and tangled. Before Sarah could process the horror unfolding, that reflection opened its mouth, not in a scream, but in a perfect, chilling smile. "Help me," it whispered, the sound seducing her against her will. For a split second, Sarah found her breath caught, her pulse slowing in reluctant sync with the alluring figure. "No." She slapped her hands against her own face as if to shake off the enchantment, a surge of self-preservation fighting back against the dark voice. It wasn't just the other girl, it was something far deeper, a shard of her own despair threatening to pull her under. "Get away from me!" Sarah screamed, lunging toward the mirror in defiance. But as her hand hit the glass, it rippled like water, and the figure outside twisted and distorted into 1,000 shapes, each reflecting a fear she had buried deep: failure, loss, abandonment. Each shape twisted, wrapping tighter around her mind. "Face it or drown," the voice coiled around her, seductive and menacing, drawing her in. She stumbled back, the hard wall met her once again, refusing to let go. Her mind raced. She had to resist. She had to break free. In a desperate move, she started to chant the words from the journal, her voice rising above the sinister echoes. "Whatever you are, you do not control me. I refuse." Suddenly, silence enveloped her. The figure paused mid-motion, then let out a howl like the wind tearing through the trees. The walls quaked. The mirror began to shimmer violently. Was it working? She pushed the words out harder, willing herself to stand her ground. But just as she thought she gained the upper hand, the floor beneath her began to crack and shift. The room shuddered. In a last bit of defiance, she lunged at the mirror, determined to break the spell that bound her. This was it, she had to choose: drown in their shadows or shatter her reflection for good. The fate of her sanity and survival hinged on the edge of shattering glass. Would she find a way to smash through to freedom, or would eternity trap her as a reflection in that mirror? Time was running out. The mirror's surface rippled like a stone cast into deep water. Just as Sarah prepared to lunge, the world around her twisted, pulling her into a dizzying spiral. She was no longer in the room. In an instant, she stood in an endless expanse of darkness, the air thick with despair. "Where am I?" she whispered into the void. The only response was her own echo, returning to her like a taunt. Panic clawed at her throat. The ground beneath her felt like a living entity, shifting underfoot as if alive with shadows eager to consume her. The chilling voice returned, deeper now, resonating and vibrating through the air. "Welcome to the realm of shadows, Sarah." A cold, clammy hand gripped her arm. Whirling around, she faced the dark figure, now more defined against the gloom. Its smile was twisted and wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. The eyes, once mere glimmers of malevolence, now burned with a sickening fire. "Are you ready to discover your truth?" it taunted, the words dripping with malice. Fear coiled around her heart like a vice. "I want to let you take me," she shouted defiantly, attempting to free herself from its grasp. But the grip tightened, and she felt the weight of her fears gnawing at her courage. The figure tilted its head, amusement flickering in its eyes. "Oh, but you've already given yourself to me, haven't you?" Memories surged within her like waves crashing on the shore. Self-doubt, discontent, every moment she felt unworthy. Faces of people who had let her down swirled around her like shadows. "You are my despair," she gasped, realizing the truth. This figure was a manifestation of her darkest moments, dressed in nightmare. "Why fight what you are?" it hissed, drawing closer, its breath cold against her cheek. "Join me, embrace the darkness within." "No." A newfound resolve surged within Sarah, awakening a flame she thought extinguished. She focused on that flicker of light, pushing the darkness aside. "You don't define me." The shadows writhed, hissing in response. They prowled closer, hungry for her surrender. But right as despair threatened to overtake her, Sarah recalled the journal, the words of the hunter echoing back. The darkness is stronger than any light you can hold. Wrong. She shouted back, summoning every ounce of strength. I control my destiny. The darkness recoiled momentarily at her words, as if struck. Then it charged toward her, a tidal wave determined to sweep her off her feet. She braced herself, feeling the vibrations of fear and anger beneath her skin. If she was going to face this entity, she had to attack, not retreat. With a fierce scream, she focused all her love, hope, and determination into a single burst of energy. Enough. The air shimmered, the ground quaking beneath her. The shadows around her twisted, recoiling as she released her power. The figure screeched, a sound that echoed through the void, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah felt the chains of despair cracking apart. Run! She shouted to herself, propelling her forward through the darkness. But just as she turned to escape, a hand shot out from the shadows, wrapping around her ankle, pulling her down. No. Not yet. The voice whispered seductively. You can't leave. You belong to us. Struggling against the grip, Sarah's heart raced, every muscle tensed as she gazed back into the swirling abyss of her fears. She had to break this cycle. A new flicker of hope ignited inside her. I don't belong to the shadows. She bellowed, grasping at her inner light, letting it flare brighter than ever before, but as she fought to pull free, she felt something shift in the darkness. A new form began to emerge from the shadows, one that seemed familiar and treacherously inviting. Who would it be? A friend turned foe, a childhood memory twisted beyond recognition. Sarah had to know, and yet fear held her in place, caught between light and encroaching darkness. What awaits you when you face the past? Whispered the shadows, each word spinning like silk around her. The answer swirled tantalizingly close, that if she was to break free, she'd need to conquer not just this entity, but the ghosts of her own history. Where were they leading her next? What awaited her beyond this battle? The darkness throbbed around her, a living void that mirrored her own confusion. With the hand still tightly gripping her ankle, Sarah's breath quickened. A dizzying swirl of regret and longing began to take shape in the shadows. The figure before her shifted, seemingly melding into the darkness, morphing into a face she recognized. It was her childhood friend, Lily, staring back with wide, pleading eyes that shimmered with a mixture of desperation and hope. Sarah, her voice echoed, faint and tremulous. You have to let go. Sophie. Sarah blinked, the name catching in her throat like a stone. Lily? No. It's me, Lily. The face twisted, flickering like a flame about to extinguish. You left me behind, and I'm not alone here. We're both trapped. Memories flooded Sarah's mind, laughter and shared secrets haunting her like phantoms. But mixed in were echoes of betrayal and misunderstandings that had driven them apart. A knot formed in her chest. This isn't real. She yelled, shaking her head. You're not real. Am I? Lily's smile turned into a grimace, her image shifting with every heartbeat. I am the result of choices, of paths not taken. If you don't confront me, the shadows will devour you both. The ground trembled beneath Sarah, as if the darkness itself was alive and pulsating with energy. No. I don't want to relive this. She cried, her voice cracking. Your fear makes you strong, Sarah, the shadow figure hissed, its voice growing louder, drowning out her protest. But it is also your weakness. Remember what happened. Suddenly, images swept through her mind, memories of a summer day that had unraveled everything. An argument, harsh words exchanged, and the sharp sting of betrayal. Lily's departure had been the culmination of their fractured friendship and, now, guilt washed over Sarah like icy waves. Face it. We need to be free. Lily urged, her voice resonating through the swirling shadows. You cannot fight your demons without embracing us. I won't. The defiance surged within her. I didn't want to leave you, I was scared. And here you are, scared again, the dark figure said, its laugh echoing like thunder. Do you not see? You've always been afraid of losing what doesn't belong to you. The shadows are merely a reflection of your own failure. The hand gripping Sarah's ankle tightened, dragging her down. She stumbled, her vision narrowing, fighting with everything inside her. Let her go. She shouted, directing all her strength to the light inside her. Let us go. For every step toward the light, shadows lunged, hissing, clawing at her resolve. The ground quaked more violently, sending waves of darkness crashing around her. But she could feel something breaking a wall she had built inside herself, brick by brick, over the years. Embrace the past, and you will find strength. Lily cried, her image becoming clearer, more solid. In that moment, Sarah noticed a glimmer of warmth illuminating their surroundings. It was small but bright, a reminder of the love they shared, even when hurtful. I want to let these shadows win. She roared, fighting against despair. I want to let you define my future. With each declaration, more light broke through the darkness. Sarah felt herself rising. The darkness screeched, discordant and furious. But just as the shadows began to retreat, a different voice pierced the air. It was another figure emerging, a silhouette she didn't recognize, but that sent jolts of panic racing through her. What if the truth is far worse? It whispered chillingly, leaving her frozen in uncertainty. What new horror loomed beneath the surface? Could she truly conquer her past, or would it continue to haunt her, dragging her back into its abyss? Sarah felt her heart hammering in her chest as the new figure stepped closer, the shadows slinking back reluctantly as if recognizing a greater threat. The silhouette shifted, becoming an amalgamation of human and shadow, twisting at the edges like smoke disturbed by wind. She squinted against the dark, trying to make out features, but all she could see were cold, empty eyes that seemed to drink in her fear. Who are you? She rasped, her throat dry, words escaping like broken glass. The figure took a step forward, the surrounding darkness shrieking in response, recoiling as if it feared the light that Sarah had begun to summon. I am the truth you bury, Sarah. The hidden aspects of your life. You've tried to ignore me so long, but I am the monster born of your own design. Stop. Her voice trembled as she fought against the panic rising in her gut. I don't want to hear it. I need to break free. Break free. The figure laughed, a hollow sound woven into the swirling darkness. You can't escape the truth. You filled your life with distractions, denying what you really are. Do you think forgetting will erase it? Sarah staggered back as memories crashed over her again, false smiles, missed opportunities, the weight of choices that had kept her locked in guilt. It painted a picture so vivid it was suffocating. She pressed her fingers to her temples, willing them to stop, knowing that only by confronting these horrors could she find her way out. Don't you see, Sarah? Lily's voice broke through, the warmth of her presence still lingering. You are stronger than this darkness. You have to face it all, every single piece of the truth. Only then can the chains be broken. Lily, but no. No more buts. You must see me, the real me, burdened by our shared past, to move forward. This shadow feeds on your regrets, your denial. You think it's just about me, but it's about you. Sarah felt the breath catch in her throat. The tension inside her tightened, turning almost unbearable. She looked into Lily's pleading eyes, seeking reassurance, and when she found none, it fueled her desperation. What do I do? She whispered, the question heavy and inaudible against the surrounding chaos. Accept every piece of yourself. The silhouette coiled closer, extending a long, twisted arm. Embrace your weaknesses, embrace your choices, embrace me. She paused, the air thick with the weight of profound choice. Facing this figure, she recognized a truth she had been too afraid to confront, that she was more than her past failures. Okay, Sarah's breath steadied. I choose to acknowledge you. I choose to own my past. As those words left her lips, a brilliant light exploded from within, washing over the silhouettes, the darkness flinching as if physically hurt. The figure faltered, its resolute form flickering, shadows tearing apart under the brightness of Sarah's burgeoning strength. Enough! It snarled, retreating into the shadows as they clawed at the light desperately, writhing like panicked creatures, but even as she fought back the darkness, doubt slithered into her mind, a lingering tickle of uncertainty. Did she truly have the strength to face it all? What other horrors lay buried, waiting for her willingness to unearth them? As the light battled valiantly against the dark, a chilling laugh echoed across the void. You think this is the end, Sarah? Oh, sweet girl, the real nightmare is just beginning. A sense of foreboding enveloped her. What awaited her in the depths of her own haunting? And just how far would she have to go to confront it? The truth was now undeniable, she was only at the start of this treacherous journey, and greater challenges loomed, waiting to drag her deeper into the abyss. Would she possess the courage to follow through? The light surged against the shadows, illuminating the twisted features of the figure for a fleeting moment. Sarah seized that moment, drawing strength from the glow cascading around her. It felt like armor against the chaos swirling close by. But even with this newfound resolve, her heart raced with a primal fear. Reveal yourself, she demanded, voice steady yet strained. With each word, she propelled herself forward, determined to meet whatever lay ahead. The shadows writhed, and the laughter echoed again, mocking her newfound courage. You wish to see me? I am every secret you've kept, every heart you've broken, the half-truths you've convinced yourself to believe. The figure surged back into existence, formless yet terrifying. I don't fear you. I choose to own my truth. Do you? The laugh died, replaced by a low growl. Then why do you hesitate? The moment hung heavy in the air, and Sarah felt the force of it settle in her bones. She thought of Lily's warmth, of the bond they once shared. Confronting her past meant also acknowledging the guilt she carried, the friends she lost, the choices she had made that led her here. I'm not running anymore, she whispered to herself, even as doubt crept in. That's when the shadows converged, twisting wildly like storm clouds. Let us make this worth your while, the figure hissed. Face what's truly haunting you. Suddenly, the scene around Sarah shifted. The darkness peeled away to reveal a cold, dimly lit room. It felt familiar, and dread coiled in her chest. There, before her, was a long, stained table scattered with remnants of her past, crumpled memories, faded photographs, and fragments of conversations that had once held meaning. Each piece was a reminder of the life she had led and the people she had let slip away. No, not here, she whispered, stepping back in horror. Images flooded her mind. She saw Lily's face, the regret, the pain. The choices Sarah made on that fateful night, decisions taken too lightly. The knowledge that she could have changed everything. I didn't mean to. You didn't want to. The figure taunted, inching closer, illuminating the room's grotesque details. This is your reality, Sarah. Face it. How many were left behind because of you? Panic surged through her, visceral and sharp. She stumbled forward, gaze darting between the haunting memories strewn everywhere, feeling trapped in the weight of each regret. Could she really confront each piece, each shard of pain laid before her? But then something shifted again. The light inside her flared, an internal strength pushing against the shadows. I want to be defined by my failures. These are parts of me, yes, but they don't control me. As her voice rang out with newfound conviction, the shadows shrieked, retreating momentarily. Yet beneath that growing light, doubt still tangled at her feet, whispering of her most significant shame. Ah, but the deepest wound remains unspoken, the being hissed, coiling back menacingly. The truth you fear to unveil the most. Little Sarah, will you delve deeper? Fear clutched at her throat. What lay beneath? What else could she uncover about herself that would shatter her newfound determination? Every stitch of her past seemed to intone, warning her to stop, to tread carefully. "Get ready, dear Sarah," it sneered. "The next truths are waiting, and they won't be pretty." The shadows gathered, pulse quickening with anticipation. Sarah stood on the precipice, fear battling against resolve. She had to choose to leap into the unknown or retreat into the comfort of ignorance. With her heart pounding, she braced herself. Whatever came next, she was ready to face the worst. But would the truth be her savior or her undoing? The next revelation beckoned. Heart racing, she stepped forward into the deepening dark. The shadows converged around Sarah, closing in like a noose. She took a moment to breathe deeply, reminding herself that fear was a choice one she refused to make anymore. "I want to let you consume me," she whispered fiercely, her voice strong enough to cut through the darkness. The shadowy figure hissed in anger, recoiling as if struck. "Such defiance, but it changes nothing. The truth you dread is waiting." As it loomed larger, grotesque and swirling, the oppressive air thickened, surrounding her in despair. A sense of urgency flooded within her. She had to confront her fears and her mistakes. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, refusing to back down. "You want to reveal my sins? Fine. Show me." Her challenge echoed, and the shadows twisted in response, their piercing eyes now glaring with interest. The world around her shifted again, darkness bending and folding, revealing yet another forsaken memory. It flickered like an old film, projecting scenes from her past. Sarah's heart sank as she watched a younger version of herself in an old living room, the room where she had last seen Lily, before the fateful fight. The day everything had changed. "Sarah, we need to talk," echoed the voice of her childhood friend, and the sound was almost too painful to bear. "I never wanted you to leave." She sobbed as she watched the argument replay, words spewing like poison, irrational anger spilling into the air, and finally Lily storming out, hurt filling her eyes. The pain of betrayal braided into Sarah's heart like a dark, suffocating chain. "Did you really mean any of it?" the figure whispered from behind her, weaving a web of doubt. "You could have stopped her. Ever thought about that?" "No." Sarah screamed, hands balling into fists. "I was scared. I didn't want to lose my best friend." Tears streamed down her face, mingling with the shadows that clung to her. "But I was wrong. I should have fought harder." The memories faded, morphing into whispers of all the moments she'd taken for granted, the birthday celebrations, the shared dreams, the late-night talks that had woven their plans for a future together. Each memory felt like a shard of glass, twisting deeper into her skin. But then, something sparked within her. "I'm not that girl anymore. I accept my mistakes." She shouted into the void, grounding herself in the truth of who she was now. "I'm stronger because I failed. I can choose to be better." Suddenly, a bright light exploded from within her, illuminating every corner of the sprawling darkness. "I choose to forgive," she declared, and the shadows shrieked, recoiling from her newfound strength. "You think that will save you?" the figure hissed, desperation clawing through its voice. "It's not just about forgiveness. You must face everything." The shadows twisted violently, thrumming with the weight of centuries of sorrow and regret. "Go on, Sarah. My dear girl, delve deeper." With a surge of courage, Sarah moved forward, diving headfirst into the memory that came surging back next, the day she chose to ignore Lily's calls, lost in her own insecurities. The feeling of isolation wrapped around her like heavy chains. "Face it!" yelled the figure. Within this memory, she saw herself retreating into silence, missing crucial chances to bridge the rift. "I was so afraid you would never forgive me," Sarah cried into the darkness, as the hollow echo of guilt pierced her heart, but even as the memory replayed, something shifted within. "Yet here I am, willing to break free from this cycle. I will no longer hide behind my failures. I will face every shadow." The room brightened as if lit by an internal sun. The shadows shrieked again, morphing in the blinding light. "You think you've won? Darkness will return. I will fight. Sarah cried, and with that declaration, the light burst outward, reflecting off every surface, illuminating the path ahead. As the darkness began to dissolve like mist before the dawn, she heard a voice from the depths. If you conquer this shadow, you may find what you are truly looking for. But remember, the journey is never truly over. Suddenly, she was back in the break room of Ashley's Corner Mart. The cold air rushed to meet her, and for a moment, she was stunned into silence. The clock ticked steadily, and the shadows of the store felt less threatening now, more like distant memories bubbling under the surface. The unlocking was complete, and as she gazed at her own reflection in the glass of the break room window, she felt lighter. The chains that had bound her heart began to loosen. It was in that moment she realized she would always carry the shadows, those haunting memories would never fully fade. But instead of letting them pull her down, she could weave them into her journey forward. As she stepped outside into the fresh air, a sense of calm enveloped her. She was ready to face tomorrow, ready to reach out, ready to mend relationships she had lost. Goodbye, darkness. Hello, light, she whispered under her breath, finally free. And she walked into the crisp night, knowing she held the power to shape her own fate. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories, packed with thrill and wonder. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us create more engaging content. I want to hear your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything. Show it now.